Welcome to our program, Leaders Are Readers. And this is your host, Doc. And with me today, Stephen Van Basten. Stephen, how's it going?
Yeah, good. Thank you. I am always well, and when I'm not, I pretend.
It's good. They say just keep it, fake it until you make it. All right. So that's really, but we don't have to do that today because we can be real because both you and I are leaders and we have a heart for other leaders who have got the discipline of reading books. Now, Stephen, you've been an author of several books, of which I know your latest hit is the one on AI. But I just want to quickly refresh. When we spoke last time about one, so you engaged, now what? Then we had, so you married, now what? And then we had relationship mastery. Now, those three literally were a beautiful combination in terms of, if you engage, if you want to get married, how relationship mastery all tied it together. So that was the previous program. And if you've missed it, please just go back onto my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com at docandvt. And you can go and see where Stephen and I was literally adding value to your lives. But today, Stephen, what is the book that we're going to be talking about?
Well, the very first one I wrote really was So You're Alive Now What? And that's where it kind of starts. And it's really a book, a philosophical book about the meaning of life and why we're here and human behavior, etc., etc. It opens up millions of beautiful questions and thoughts and concepts just about this strange planet we've landed on called planet Earth. And then, yeah, I guess the last one, which I'm really excited about. So you run a small business now, what? It's all the kind of now what series and very cool. So yes, thank you. The one I think we'll talk about today is So You're Alive Now.
Okay, so now you're just talking, this is a zest for life, this is that there's gratitude for life, or is this really more philosophical, the question in terms of you're alive, but how are you living your life? Give us a peep into it. What does it entail?
You see, I have spent my whole life just contemplating this question. Why are we here? What's it all about? Is there a God? If there is, what's the nature of that God? And, you know, how do we as human beings behave in different situations and different relationships? And why are we here? So of course, there are no answers to that, Doc. There are 8 billion people on Earth. In my opinion, there are 8 billion answers to that. I genuinely believe that everyone's on a path, and that path takes us to our destiny. And, I really believe you can't change your destiny much. You can change the journey. You can change, how you get there, but in a million years' time, I will be where I'm meant to. I'm pretty certain of that.
Absolutely. But you see, the biggest problem today is in terms of people are, they are alive, but they're not living. In fact, they are living dead. I'll be honest with you. I mean, so many people are literally waiting for one day. I call it that glass slipper syndrome, where one day when I get money, one day when I get rich, one day when I go on holiday, and nothing happens because they're all living in terms of what could happen in the future as opposed to embracing life right now. So it's not about the destination, it's the journey on the route to the destination. So many people are guilty of not enjoying their day-to-day journey. For heaven's sake, you wake up this morning. I was driving in my car and it was mist. I was sort of in mist, and I love it where there's mist. I just felt like, could have been in bed with a nice cup of hot chocolate, what have it, and you could just read a book and enjoy it. Or, in my case, when I'm enfolded with that mist, for me, it's a very spiritual thing in terms of being engulfed by the Creator Himself. So it depends on how you interpret what is happening to you. So, what would you make of what I've just related to you right now?
Yeah, I think there's a fundamental question, and I'm quite scared to ask this question because human beings get quite polarized, and depending on your belief system and what society you were born into, and frankly, what religion you were born into, you will react differently to this question. And the question really is, and it's a scary question, and that is, do you believe the world is in order or not? And before you answer, it's a scary question because the minute you go, I don't think the world's in order, you presupposing God made a mistake, that God created something that's gone wrong. And I just don't believe that. So you may go, but Satan's got jurisdiction over the earth and God in heaven. And I go, what? You're telling me Satan's stronger than God? Sorry, not
Nah.
in my, not
Well,
in my,
Stephen,
not
for
under
me,
my roof.
it's an easy one, man. I mean, come on. You and I wake up every single morning, and there's one thing that will never go away. We see a sunrise. You're up early enough. It's a sunrise. What happens at the end of the day? That sun sets. At night, the moon comes up. It's the same as a rising, it's a setting. And you know what? As long as I've been alive, I've had to witness that every single day. Now, that consistency for me is the start of order. That's not chaos.
Hmm.
Chaos means things are just sort of exploding and it's all over the place. I mean, if you look at an accident, two cars in collision, you know, an accident always leads to chaos. But our lives are in order. I mean, every single morning there's a sunrise. And one thing I can promise you that also confirms order for me is you can go and sit and watch the sea, and there's a tide, there's a high tide, and there's a low tide. There's the ebb and the flow of that tide. It's in and it's out. So that brings balance, not only order, but it brings balance for me. So I always say nature leaves clues. Just look around you. You know, of course, people are going to have different persuasions, you know, whether they're agnostic, whether they're atheists, whether they born again believer of Christ, whether they're Buddhist, it doesn't matter. Because when you look at nature, it pretty much speaks for itself. You know, I don't mind telling you. I mean, I base whatever I believe of what I've learned from the Bible because of the proof of so many years. It spoke about one person, and even today, there are not enough books in the libraries that actually can describe that great of mine, which is my Lord Jesus. Because you know, in Psalm 119, in fact, 19 verse 1 says, "The heavens declare my glory, and the skies proclaim my handiworks." Okay, try and default that. Look up. And he says, look at these. Who made this? He actually asked this question. And he asked every question to you and me, whether you believe or not, doesn't matter. He asks you, look up, explain how that got there. And if you can't explain it, rather accept it. Now that to me is order. I look up and there's a heaven on top of me. And you know what? Sometimes it's cloudy, sometimes the sunshine, but I look up at there, man. So
100%. No, but that's so now you've taken the easy route. You've taken nature.
okay.
You've taken nature. But when you look at human beings, do you feel the same?
Oh no. I think human beings are fallible. I'll be honest with you. However, every single person I believe is created uniquely, perfectly, but yet our behavior makes us non-perfect. But I mean, if you just look at the birth of a child, in fact, I don't know if you've had the privilege of being present at the birth of a child. That's
Yes.
when you just that's when you just realize, listen, man, there's somebody greater than me in this picture. I mean, for instance, take this, you got also a big nose like I have. The nose bone of a human being doesn't come into play until 48 hours after birth. Why? Because it's a soft bone and it goes through the birth canal. So literally
It
can
doesn't
it
break.
sort of it helps and it doesn't break. That's the one thing. The second thing is that your nerve endings at the back of your head, literally as you go push through the birth canal, ignite and you come alive. And therefore you've got sensory feelings. You now have sensory feelings like it right to your fingertips. I mean, just that process of natural birth that makes you realize then how is all this stuff working together? I mean, this part, the part that swallows right to the esophagus, I mean, is of in itself is a membrane that is totally flexible and only fully forms 48 hours after birth. Okay. Yeah, okay. Explain this thing. You and I are water babies. We
Mm.
actually were in a sack of water. How come we didn't drown?
Yeah.
How come we didn't drown? And the moment we get birth, they slap you behind, you give a
First of
scream.
many ideas I got.
Exactly. And all of a sudden we breathe. Now you've gone from a water baby to alive. But if I took that very baby that is now breathing and I put him back in the water, guess what happens? He will drown immediately. How do you explain that?
Mm.
So you're alive. Now what?
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, the universe is, and the earth and the life and the manifestation of everything is too magnificent to be a mistake. And also, the scientists have a theory now that the Big Bang wasn't the beginning, it was just an event, which means there was something before it. And this is, this is the big issue, is that, if you go, if by some miracle we were to be able to be taught what God is, okay, this is God, then we have our next problem. All right, so who created God? You know what I'm saying? Like, there's no beginning, and there's, in theory, no end. But it's a big conundrum because, to me, God is not something that is describable or definable. It's way beyond anything we can consider. Just, we blink to keep our eyes moist, and we and
Fully
our
agree. I mean, because one thing for certain, because just that part, if you like me, you believe that he sent his son to come and save mankind. Okay, but he came from a frame or a form where he was non-existing in our minds to becoming a human form to become fully man. I mean, come on. This is now where your mind wants to reason, say, dude, you cannot explain it. And then when we talk about, if we talk about energy, vibration, all of those kind of things, let's face it, we know that there are way many dimensions. I mean, as it is, when you and I look at it, let's say a cell phone, okay? People tell me that this actually is in full-time vibration all along. It vibrates. Although it looks like a solid unit, there are mechanisms in there that's constantly vibrating. You just can't see it. But it's minuscule, but it's hundreds of thousands of whatever the speed is of that thing. So look, the mind, I think the human mind, basically is limited. Now that's why, when I speak on IQ, people have got intelligence quotient. There are people who've got a very high intelligence quotient, but what I find is that the higher the quotient is, the less the people skills are. Isn't that the strangest thing ever? Then we
yes,
have
and mhm.
then we have emotional quotient, the guy that actually can take these emotions and start controlling them. And we find that the people with no emotional quotient, well, they need to buckle up because they are in for fights. They are in for a bumpy ride because they cannot control those emotions. That's supported by the SQ, the social quotient. How do you and I get along in life? I mean, just on a golf course. I mean, if you're having a bad shot and I actually just niggle you a bit, that was terrible. Yes, you're sucking, man. Yeah, that wasn't good. I mean, it won't take you long to turn around to that club and just club them if you had to, because it's a
100%.
social thing of us working together. But my last one is the adversity quotient. You know what we do? Is how we handle the ups and downs of life. How do we handle chaos of life? So it's all quotient. It's all how is it? But still, it comes back to one thing: your head. We have a mind, we think. We have a heart, we feel. We have hands, we do. And just thinking about it, that's why I like to think of the head, heart, hand principle. Now, often we think about something, it goes straight to the hands, and we do things, but it's short-lived because it doesn't add value because you didn't distill it through your being, your heart. But when you engage your heart, like, the love that you and I have for our wives, you and I have been married for years. Why is it that we are so happy? It's because it's resonated through our heart. It went into where love comes from. And I just love it, because there is this thing is God is love. And that's why we can experience love. But the guy that's out there that's bitter with life, they can't love. I mean, right now he's pointing his finger in my face and he wants to poke my eye out. Hey, sorry for you, dude. You cannot give love if you can't love yourself.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the
100%.
greatest
I
thing.
I like to think about EQ as your ability to manage diversity. So for me, IQ is around the 8 billion of us on Earth, 8 billion different people, different religions, different skin colors, different sexual preferences, different identify as's, and so to me, the real true master just accepts everyone for who they are as they've manifest with their all of their their flimmies, let's call it. And so for me, EQ is around managing diversity. And I think that's the biggest lesson that humans come to Earth to learn. We are so we're so into these isms, racism and sexism and homophobia and religiosism and etc. etc. We like people to be in a nice box, the same box as us. Everyone must, like herd mentality. The minute someone's outside of that, that's deemed to be evil or bad or wrong.
But Stephen, if you think about it, all of us are a product of where we come from. Now, if you and I were born in India, okay, in the middle of Calcutta, we may have thought about different about life than what we think about life, having been born. I mean, I've been born in South Africa.
Me too.
And my parents lived here. Yes, they came from originally from Denmark, where I come from. My parents are from Denmark, and then they went from Denmark to Netherlands. From Netherlands, they came to South Africa. If you just look at my sort of family line. But the bottom line is, I grew up through the influence of my father and mother. Yes. And what I believe is what they exposed me to. I mean, in my own home, my dad was a Methodist, my mother was Dutch Reformed. Of in itself, I became a smarty box for a while in terms of who's right, my mom and my dad. So for 2 Sundays of the week, we went to my dad to the Methodist church. 2 Sundays a week, we went with my mom to the Dutch Reformed church. And we grew up fully bilingual. So I'm grateful for that today. But in terms of where it took me, in terms of what I believe, it's that influence. I'll compare that with a guy that actually gets born in Amazon. No influence. He just sees nature. He just looks up and he sees this big sun that comes up every day and goes like, that's a force, man. That's a force to be reckoned with. Think about it. You are a product of your circumstance. You are a product of your environment. And that's why we come with a quote, environment is stronger than will. Because often that environment will decide and help decide for us, with us. And we are influenced. So you're alive, now what? But take that very same person and put him in bad company, man, it doesn't take long. Bad company corrupts good character. You mean well, but I mean, I actually also saw a beautiful movie called Blind of a guy that it was a beautiful movie in terms of this guy that started drinking, went off the rails, lost his family, lost his kids. And then when he realized he was absolutely nothing left, I mean, he was blinded by the fact that he actually was his own worst enemy. But the guy got a second chance and he got his family back. And how, so I highly recommend anybody to watch the movie because it makes you think in terms of we all have that bad part in us. He chose to feed it. He chose to feed his alcoholism and he became an absolute monster. Hey, we all are borderline, if we're honest. We all get these choices right and wrong. And I think it's in the human spirit to want to experiment. Is this good for me? And that's why I think the advice is test everything, but keep that which is good. But you won't know until you felt the pain. I mean, sometimes unfortunately, I'm one of those guys. If I don't feel the pain, I don't learn, man. Like somebody tells you, play your goal shot like this, do it like that, and I try and do it my way, then didn't work, and then I do it the way that I should be doing it, and all of a sudden it's easier. But you guide it, so we'll get guided. It's a vast topic, Stephen. I can see both you and our minds are going.
Yeah, and the scary question is, or even maybe statement is, there are people on planet Earth who believe that guy in the Amazon is going to hell, and you and I, because we were born into Christian families, will go to heaven, and the Buddhist will go to hell, and the Hindu will go to hell because they never found Jesus. Like, and you can answer, you can argue they had the opportunity, but the Oki in the Amazon may not have. And these are conundrums, religious and spiritual conundrums, because, the biggest...
Let's make it even more difficult.
Yeah.
What about, doesn't matter whether you're in Amazon or whether you're in Australia, whether you're in America, you're a newborn baby, you can't talk yet, you can't eat, up until the age of 1 before you talk, you go. Life calls you.
Yeah.
That was the end of your chapter.
You weren't
Where do we
baptized.
believe? Yeah, what's going to happen to that child?
Yeah.
I believe that that child is in the Creator's hands. Why not? Because he was a miracle as it is. Just birth is a miracle, man. Come on. So I think in our minds, we block out the possibility and we actually govern our minds. In fact, it's like, I remember in the Defense Force, they used to put a governor in the vehicles that we drove. Why? So we couldn't go faster. And
Yes,
I think we govern our minds. But if we think about it, God is not governed. Look around you. I
I
mean,
agree.
have you seen the collection of birds that of birds that you think to yourself, no man, this is impossible. A bird can't look like this. It's got all the colors of the rainbow and it's just beautiful. Lately, I've been seeing that because with social media, we now have access to what we could not see before because you and I had to go and travel
Mm.
to be privileged to see that. But nowadays, social media brings that to us. I mean, I saw a little bird the other day with like call it 7 or 8 colors, and I'm like, it can't be. This thing is artificially. It was made by AI, but it's not. It's
Yeah.
just a beautiful creature.
Mm.
It's out there.
And there's so
So
many species and so many different things. And, just coming back to the universe again, is that the trees, they breathe in the carbon, I think it's dioxide or that we produce. They breathe that in,
correct.
they breathe out oxygen for us, and we're in this relationship. So, I mean, there are actually some people who jokingly say the trees created us to to change the
I
oxygen
sort
into
of I
carbon
get the tree
dioxide for
hugger.
them. Yeah,
I
you
get the
see.
tree hugger because he is grateful that he can breathe because of the tree.
Yeah,
So yeah, I can also hug a tree for that fact and say thank you. But I also say to them, but who made the tree?
yeah,
You
no,
know,
100%. But the tree made, whoever did that made everything. But my point is that there's this interaction that's brilliant and clever that no human mind can even conceive of. So yeah, so just back to the book, back to the one of the concepts in the book, and that is, um, gosh, no, I've lost my thought coming back to that. Oh yes, I think the meaning of life is actually growth. So when you look
Mhm.
at anyone that or everyone that I revere, and even like Jesus and Buddha and Martin Luther King, for example, Madiba, Oprah Winfrey, like you arrive as one thing, but you become more. So I know we could argue about Jesus, so let's not go there. But he was born a baby, and etc. etc. But when he passed, he had left this amazing amount of teaching, etc., etc. So we become more over life and through our lifetime. And to me, that's what life's about: is to experience as much as we can and to grow spiritually and to grow the personal growth up Maslow's hierarchy. It's my favorite one, to self-actualization or self-validation or somebody or
Mhm.
Christhood, you may call it. And so that for me, so you're alive now. What? Now go and live, go and enjoy, go and experience. And, we need to be careful of the people who go, oh, don't do that. Doc, when I was at school,
Yeah.
I think I was in standard 8. I was a brown belt in karate, and I had Southern Transvaal colors.
Okay.
And my religious instructor teacher, and with all due respect, once again, we didn't learn religion at school. We learned Christianity and why that's right and everyone else was wrong. And he told me he was a very good, strong Christian, and I love that. But he told me I was going to hell because I did karate. I said, but why? He said, because you meditate before and afterwards. So, if I believed him, I would have missed out on an experience that has really created or molded my character. I'm a different person because of 50 years of karate, actually 55 now. I started when I was 5. My father was my first instructor. So, we need to be careful of people who are scared of the unknown or scared of difference
Mhm.
because they can also take us off track.
But you know what? There I have to support you. I mean, I was also standard 8 when I also had my brown belt. So Uh, you know who I am today. I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
pastor. Does that say I'm not going to go to heaven? No, it was part of my experience because I loved discipline. I was a karate because it taught me discipline. It taught me to, when I punch, is to control it and not to bring harm unless I am threatened. And that to me was a beautiful principle in terms of having the skills when I need it. I mean, come on. It's much better to be that controlled than a guy that sits in the bar, has a tonking session and has got no limits and just loses and slurs and calls people's names, you know. So I think we need to
Beats somebody
understand
up in the pub and then goes home and shags the neighbor's wife.
exactly. You know, but I think we
Because
are all called
there's
to
a
live a
fight
life
and
of character.
there's a fight
Yeah.
and a pump in every bottle of brandy.
But you know what? So many people actually talk about brandy. I mean, I've got a family member. Do not give that person brandy. Oh my gosh, becomes a monster
Yes.
because it can't control itself. So we all are, in a sense, we come to this point of will we be responsible? Because ultimately, we know right from wrong. I mean, there's just a little sense in me and you that when you get to a red traffic light, they say, yeah, but you were taught you have to stop at the red traffic light. Yeah, but there's also common sense. You can maybe try and nick it once or twice, but boy, you're going to lose your life if you keep on doing it. We just know it's inherent. There's right and there's wrong. And I think when it comes to so you're alive, what now? Common sense plays a big role. And it comes to choices. You and I can choose whatever we want. I choose to believe. I choose there's an afterlife. Other people believe you're coming back as a spider on the wall. I don't believe in that. I believe that there is life everlasting. But so what? But I'm not going to judge the person who doesn't believe it.
Yes.
But if they ask me, why do you believe it? Well, I can tell them about, I've seen miracles in my life. You know, I believe I'm a living miracle. I mean, I can tell you now that there's been events in my life where the devil tried to take me out. I was shot, but here I am telling the story. I mean, people say to me, but I mean, why would you get shot? What sin is there in your life? I could never believe it. My best friend, the first thing he asked me, what sin have you got in your life that you got shot? I mean, ouch.
No.
I said, yeah, no,
He's
that's not
also
good.
not my friend anymore.
Yeah, it's
And I
not my,
don't
yeah,
even
it's
know
not
him.
right. Yeah. I said to him, but I learned out of that one thing, not to ask, why, Lord? I had to ask, what must I learn? And I did. I learned so much around the circumstances. But the moment the focus went from me to others, it all made sense. It wasn't for me. It was to actually be a testimony to others. And the fact that I made it, I saw the power of prayer. That's one thing. I mean, Michelle and I married 30 years this year. What has made us like this?
Congratulations.
Thank you. What has made us like this? Because literally, when I was truly in the bodily form dying, that woman pulled out the power of prayer. And she negotiated with God and said, you said, you'll never give me anything that I cannot handle. I'm telling you now, this man goes, I cannot handle that. You better take me as well. And she wrestled for me. She prayed for me. And yet we saw that somehow, unexplainable, I was saved. Next morning I woke up and I was touched. I was healed. I got up and went, yeah, get up. And people went, what? I got out of my bed. I put my shoes on. I started praying for the people. I said, I'm healed. And then I only found that not only was I touched, Stephen, every single person in high care was touched. And how do I know it was a miracle? Well, somehow high care was closed for 3 days. Lo and behold, my story to tell. So that's just part of hold on. You're alive now, so what? And I just realized that needs to be told for those who want to hear it. And somebody says, hold on, tell me the whole story. I will. But I don't every day in my life get up and say, oh, who can I tell the story? No. I just believe it was at the time, it was grace and it was meant to be for who I am and who I've become. But we grow. Everything's about growth, Stephen. You know, look at you
Exactly.
and me today. I mean, we used to weigh 62. We don't weigh 62 anymore. We grew.
Sideways.
Exactly. And yeah, so we grow in stature, we grow in posture, we grow in our mind. But the whole thing's a growth journey. So in terms of starting in your book and saying, so you're alive now, what? I can promise you one thing. There's growth. Whether you want to admit it or not, doesn't matter what you believe. Growth is something that you cannot deny. It happens
100%.
every day.
You know, they say that in life there are a couple of things that will never change. I'm not sure of the terminology, but it's like a death and taxes, right?
Yeah.
However, growth is another one. You cannot live 60 years on earth without growing. That's the meaning of life, in my opinion. And then comes the interesting concept where if you were to look at your life, you'll see the ups and downs, right? Oh, and by the way, Michelle and I prayed you out of COVID, so I'm taking some of the credit there. Don't just say, "Oh, Michelle." There's was fun Basten as well. So you know, if you look at your life, there are ups and downs. There are times when you're healthy, times when you're sick, times when you're happy, times when you're sad, times when you lie, times when you're honest, etc. So, but when you look at your life, is it the good times that grow you, or the tough times?
I think mostly tough times is where our biggest lessons are learned from my side. I think
100%.
we are sent challenges, we are sent hard times in order to improve, in order to grow. Because you know what? If everything is as perfect, it doesn't leave much scope for you to actually grow and improve.
Yeah. So
Um,
So here's
yeah,
the essence of the book. Here's
yeah.
it in one nutshell moment. Please sit back and open your heart and mind and your soul to this. We grow through the tough times. So the tough times are the meaning of life.
Well, it has to do with
Because,
growth, and I
yeah,
cannot
because
go against that. There's
no,
growth.
just not yet, because people are actually moaning and groaning. Oh, why did I get this? Why did I get this? Well, you got it to grow, and growth is the meaning of life. That's the point I'm making here, is that we have this unrealistic expectation that life on earth should be like heaven. Nothing ever goes wrong. No one ever swears at you. Nobody ever dies. Nobody ever is unfaithful. No, you never lose a business deal. The weather's always perfect. You and your wife are always horny at the same time. It doesn't happen that way. So
I'm going
we
to ask you
are
what you're smoking, because life doesn't work that way. I mean,
exactly.
life's not this perfect breeze of everything falls into place.
No, that's
In fact,
heaven.
you know what? Let's take, for instance, children that grew up by themselves, already at a disadvantage because they didn't have somebody else that made them a little bit jealous of, why is he wearing the yellow shirt? I want the yellow shirt, and didn't get that time to hone that skill of having to learn how to negotiate child against child. I really believe that it all of that diversity, like you said, and I call it adversity in terms of bringing
Yeah,
the conflict into it.
yeah,
It's the reality of life, because it is when things don't go that well that we are forced to choose to either grow or to regress. I want to grow. I mean, why go backwards? I mean, I've never seen a tree that started up as a little tree that became a massive oak that says, "Oh, I want to be a little tree again." No, it wants to produce fruit. It wants to be a big tree.
the
So I just think
Japanese will make a bonsai out of it.
that's it. Just to prove the point, it can go the other way. Yeah.
No,
But
they
you know
just
what?
stunt the growth. Actually, it
Yeah.
doesn't grow; it gets smaller, and they stunt it. But
Yeah.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
But I think if I just look at the value of today, is that we've been philosophical. And the thing is, we're not trying to push any belief system down anybody's throat, but we want people to think. We want people to say, so I'm alive. What now?
Mm.
How will we embrace life? Because I can tell you one thing, my parting thought is going to be this, Stephen. I have people that get up and say, life sucks, and this is wrong, and that is wrong, and everything comes out of their mouth is negative. No wonder life sucks, because that is what they reflect on the whole day. That's what they say. I happen to believe, it says that the tongue has got the power of life or death. I happen to believe if you speak negative the whole time, your life will be negative. But hey, if you don't, life could look a way lot different. So that's my last take for today.
Well,
What's your take for today?
well, that's what I started off with, is that fundamental question. And do you believe everything's in order or not? And those people who say that believe something's gone wrong. Why? I've had people, and it's quite sad. I had a lady the one time, her husband left her, which is always sad, right? But she was going, I pray every day and I'm faithful to Jesus. Why did Jesus do this to me? You know, it's an interesting concept. So, because actually, whether we like it or not, divorce is quite normal. In fact, 52% of people do get divorced. But you know, people who are continuously complaining, they see things as something went wrong, but it's
Yeah,
not. I don't think things go wrong. I think we're meant to experience just about everything in some form or other. So everything that can happen to you, there'll be, you know, somebody will have been unfaithful to you in your life. If not sexually, then in some other way. You know,
correct.
they've gossiped about you behind your back. Let's not go there, right? So you know, we're here to experience everything, and so my parting thought is that the meaning of life is experience as much as we can within the laws of the land. You don't do anything weird that you can go to jail for. And you know, that's how we grow. That's how we grow. And so, you know, if you begrudge, for example, your skin color, or you begrudge your gender, or you begrudge the country you were born into, then I believe you fail in this test of life. What we need to do is accept the hand we've been dealt. And if you look above you, there'll be people more wealthy. If you look below you, there'll be people less wealthy. If you look this side, there are people less healthy. If you look that side, there are people more healthy. Nobody's got it all. You're always in this, generally almost in the middle of anything that can happen. So, you know, my belief is just get out there, enjoy life, experience as much as you can within the laws of the land, and become more, become more.
I love it. That sort of unspoken growth that we spoke about is, you choose the path of growth, and ultimately, would it lead to contentment? Because I can tell you one thing now. I just think I've lived in big homes. Now I live in a small, humble dwelling. Oh my gosh, I'm 10 times more happy than what I ever was, because I didn't need all the stuff, because somehow it's easier to manage.
Bro, now you ended off, but you inspiring new talk. So now we're gonna continue. Here's the thing. Here's the thing. I have a fundamental belief that happiness or fulfillment is is a is a chemical reaction, not LSD or E or alcohol, stroh rum, but that's that's the chemical balance in your life that brings dopamine, etc., etc. So actually, happiness or fulfillment are actually,
Yeah.
interestingly, the emotions created by the chemical balances in our lives.
Well, I can tell you that gratitude is high in the chart. I mean, it doesn't matter how bad life looks, there's always something to actually make you realize you have to be grateful. You know, because I'm ex-defense force and ex-sport like you yourself, whenever I see somebody in a wheelchair, I immediately thank you that that did not befall me. Uh, I wouldn't want that for my best friend or best enemy, but it is what it is for that person, and yet they need to find they're happy in their circumstance. But it immediately brings an immense gratitude to me.
Mm.
You know, when we look at Netflix and we see movies of the very, very impoverished countries, I'm like, dude, we've got so much to be grateful for. We should stop complaining. We've got food.
And
Somehow we make it.
yeah, 100%. And to me, the gift of life is so priceless that even the starving Oki in Ethiopia should be grateful that his soul has a body for this lifetime, no matter
Correct.
what the circumstances. Look, you know, if you start to ask about Israel and Palestine and Lebanon, and that now we're going into a very scary thing that I don't have answers for, but I would put it out there that whatever's happening to anyone on the planet is kind of their karma, is their learning, is their experience, and somehow or other was created for them to learn some hectic lesson.
Well, let me just throw this cat among the pigeons here.
Woof woof.
Hope. Hope. Man, wherever I see hope, I see people finding a purpose to live.
Mm.
You talk about some alive, when they find hope, hope of improvement, hope of growth, hope of relationship, hope of a personal relationship because of a belief system. Trust me, things change. I think hope is a massive positive chemical.
100%. And if you look at things objectively, you will notice that, let's go back to say 9/11, because it's easier to talk about than current stuff. In that aftermath of stuff, there were hundreds of heroes. There were people being so humane. There were people of different creeds and colors and religions helping each other. It was a beautiful time. And we've probably
Absolutely.
got that going on right now. Is that in the most, somebody once noticed during the war, the churches are full. Maybe God sends the wars.
Well, I mean, definitely there's something in terms of calamity. Calamity brings um, the unnatural. Like, for instance, we just had
Mm.
this snowstorm in, in South Africa. I mean, we're
Yeah,
not
that was
used to
close to
snow, and
you,
all of
wasn't it?
that's right. And I mean, people were in cars. Two people died from hypothermia because
Yeah,
they weren't
just
kitted out to be for 14 hours in a
in the
snow-drenched
snow
vehicle.
at
But
night.
guess what happened at night? But guess what happened? The farmers who are basically being cut down by certain political groups are the very people who took their tractors, went to plow up in the snow, and were there for anybody, any race, creed, color, denomination. They were there. And it shows how calamity brings
Those
people together.
those people where they sing about the one boer, one bullet, those people,
Exactly.
they help them as well. Very nice. I like it.
They help them as well. So it's like in your face. And you
Yeah.
know what? And I just think that when life calls for what does really matter? If you get in any point where there's a calamity, where there's a bomb falls in wherever it is, those people pull together because they realize the essence of life and
It's
say, so you're alive. You are alive so that you'll find ways for you to find a solution, to find hope, and to find growth in those circumstances. And that is what keeps us alive.
yeah, and there's this balance that's going. So in the calamity, there's this heroism and beauty and stuff, but then also, like on Earth, while that stuff's going on in the Middle East, you have people in Australia who the chances of anything happening to them other than dying of old age is small, because it's just nothing. It's just like flat line. So there's always balance around the. Very
And
interesting.
that
Balance is a very interesting, and duality
it
is a
is.
very interesting concept.
But even that very balance can sometimes be very boring depending on who you are.
Here's a beautiful saying. What's fabulous to the spider is a nightmare to the fly.
Ah,
So there's a little fly in the spider's web. Spider's
correct,
bekruiping it.
correct,
What's a
correct.
nightmare to the fly is dinner for the spider.
And there's, but that's an ecosystem. I mean, you just look, everything's an ecosystem. Eat or be eaten. I'm sorry
And
to say, it's a fact of life. But
if
yet, if you go back to nature, we started with nature, and my mind goes to it is there's this ecosystem, and it's undeniable. Like the one feeds the next, and it always just keeps on
yeah,
going.
yeah.
From
But nature, I mean, we were in the Serengeti and we witnessed a kill. And it's
Mhm.
it's pretty gory, bro. Nature's
Yep,
and
correct.
nature's quite harsh. And if you look at actually the universe and the planets that are crashing into each other and eating each other up, and black holes sucking shit in, it's a vicious fucking place out there. Excuse my it's vicious. And we all this bunch of pussies going, oh, somebody bullied me in school, Opa.
And in relation to that, it doesn't even count. So listen, I just believe that this title of yours, so you're alive, what now? Opened
Hmm.
up. We are getting people to think. So this is my invite. I want you to think more. And if you listening to this today and you want to discuss it, Steve and I are available. As he would say, gooi it in the chat box. I would say just drop your note at the bottom. Let us converse with you, because you know what? We would love to help. We both are coaches in our own right, and we want to make a difference, because ultimately we all can work together to make this world a better place. So from me, Doc Ann, until we speak next time, thank you so much. There's Stephen's details. It's www.stephenvanbasten.co.za, author.html. So if you want to get hold of Stephen, please do.
That's
And
where
get hold
you
of me,
can that's where you can download that book free of charge.
free of charge. You see, that's a spirit. So immediately my gratitude goes, boom. Thank you,
You're
Stephen.
welcome.
Thank you for
100%.
generosity. And having you on the show again today was just a privilege for me. Like always,
Likewise.
thank you, Captain.
Hallelujah.